Chapter 4's new information is here. So starting with the first look into the new game from the creators behind Poppy Playtime, it turns out we're told that Mob Entertainment have some pretty dark ideas for future chapters meant to be coming after the third game, so Chapter 3 might be dethroned eventually. Meaning in terms of the horror and overall scary moments, Chapter 3 was only meant to set our expectations to get better and better down the line. And we're even told more about what these scary moments in the game are meant to be in the first place. As it turns out, even months ago, Mob Entertainment have been planning the whole story into Chapter 4 all along. I already know some good Chapter 4 moments people are gonna freak out about, leaving us in a spot where we'd still need to know more definitively what these Chapter 4 moments are meant to be. And going off of the other new details revealed early by Mob Entertainment, it turns out we're able to put together more about this next game than you might think. You see, in terms of the main theme of the game, Mob Entertainment have actually been sprinkling in little clues for fans to hunt for. Basically an early look into their next game meant to be hidden in plain sight. And thanks to a little digging, I think I'm finally able to put it all together for you. For starters, the most damning piece of evidence for Chapter 4 left behind by the Poppy Playtime game devs was actually found in their recently released Chapter 3 OST. The very clue that was literally just used to tease the third chapter of the game early in Chapter 2. These sneaky little sneakers snuck in the name of Chapter 3's full game into one of the random OST songs they originally listed the first time around in Chapter 2. So in the case of Chapter 4, there's a decent amount of evidence for the fact that they decided to do the same exact thing for this Chapter 2. Remember, they literally have the game partially planned out by now. And taking a look over at their new Chapter 3 list, what do you know? Evidence. In terms of the specific soundtrack being used to clue us into Chapter 4, onwards and downwards, sounds a whole heck of a lot like exactly what we ended up doing at the very end of Chapter 3 in the first place. After meeting up with both Poppy and Kissy Missy, we're sent down into a dark hole while helplessly hearing the screams of one of our allies while the screen fades to black. Whatever we're meant to be encountering at the very bottom of this hole is obviously going to kickstart the next chapter of the series, meaning it starts to seem pretty unlikely that this little title choice would just be a coincidence. But lo and behold, after this major discovery, it turns out the connection also started to reveal more about what we'd be meant to look out for with this upcoming game, starting with the theme for the game itself. Chapter 1 saw us exploring the factory, then the game station in Chapter 2, the playcare in Chapter 3, until we were finally left with a blank slate in terms of the next big location. Where is this next game meant to actually happen? Well, again, in this case, we already know. You see, one of the members of the Poppy Playtime Discord ended up asking one of the game's creators about what we'd be expecting for this big project. Is it already planned in which part of the factory Chapter 4 will take place? To which we see the simple response of, yep. And outside of just that update, it turns out they just so happened to decide to share that information too. You see, in the case of Poppy Playtime's last game, Chapter 3, the game developers decided to leave in a little teaser early in the previous game to basically spill the beans about the next one. Take every step like it's your last, with a sign that just so happened to lead to the playcare. And this finding was made way back in Chapter 2. It's essentially been proven that these strange posters would be the way to go in terms of confirming where the next game is likely going to be, and also what we should be expecting with it. So, searching through Chapter 3's game for this big detail we were after, lo and behold, the players were able to make the same exact discovery. And one of these poster discovery posts tells us, if we look closely at one of the posters in Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, we see one that announces a new area of the factory, Playtime's Park, an amusement park and possibly the area we're gonna be in Chapter 4. All of this makes me think about just how big this factory is, with this whole new park idea sticking out like a sore thumb towards what we'd actually be expecting for the next game. Even connecting to our potential game title itself, the fact it's phrased to simply be directions could also very well be alluding to all of the directions we're meant to be going with these new Playtime Co. roller coasters. An interesting connection that could hint towards the idea of a theme park game coming to the franchise after all. But getting into the most important aspect of the whole thing, it turns out early previews for everything we'd be expecting with Chapter 4's actual game start to reveal themselves as well. For starters, certain details in Chapter 3 that include who and what we're meant to be coming across in Chapter 4. The new big boss that may not actually be who you think. You see, originally during a specific scene of the game, Poppy tells us that Catnap himself is actually meant to be the only obstacle standing in our way that keeps us from getting to the prototype himself. And due to the fact that Nabby Cat over here doesn't look like he's doing too hot after his final encounter with the prototype, we're led to believe that we're finally meant to be coming face to face with this mysterious clawed villain in Chapter 4 at some point. But that's when we get to a bit of a twist in terms of what we'd be expecting. You see, Poppy continues to explain something specific at the very end of the game. So look closely. We need to be cautious. There's something before she's abruptly cut off by the attack above on Kissy Missy. The fact that she knows all about this new location we're going down to in the first place, as well as the new entities that would obviously live there, means it's also likely she could be explaining something else that we could potentially come across first in Chapter 4. Another new monster we'd be faced with that perhaps only seemed like a possibility of being an issue before. Why Poppy tells us Catnap was supposed to be the last one before we finally started to be lowered into the next area of the factory. But in terms of the actual release date for this upcoming project, it turns out the developers behind the game have finally started to give us the bulk of the information early. Mob Entertainment themselves started by responding to fans of the franchise who were discussing a 2-year wait period we'd be meant to actually wait for before the next game. My bet is 2027, they say. But Mob Entertainment give us more of a clear answer into what we should start to be expecting by responding with, for context, Chapter 3 started development in May 2023, so it only had an 8-month development cycle. Basically starting to get it into our heads that the actual development of Chapter 4 should actually be fairly quick, all things considered. So it's really meant to be up to this early planning stage for the game that comes right before it that'll actually dictate when the next game will be arriving after all. And what do you know, the CEO of Mob Entertainment just so happened to be cluing us into the whole thing early to help give us the full story towards what we'd be expecting with Chapter 4's actual release date. So I'm able to put this full story together for you in this video right here. For what we're told on this big situation, make sure to check it out.